Did you miss me last week?
Well,
And be honest.
yeah.
You can tell me you can tell me you didn't if you truly didn't.
Oh, whatever. Shut up.
Okay with that. Nice to see you back. We had a
Yep.
good run of a couple weeks, and then just didn't work out last week. But
Friggin' real world gets in the way and all this other kind of
always
stuff.
does, always does.
Uh-huh.
What's new? Anything? There we
Round
go.
two of the playoffs, brother.
Round two. Round
well,
one. Home ice advantage. No, means
No.
nothing.
No.
31 games won by road teams.
Mm-hmm.
Last night, guess what? Panthers won on the road. Kraken won on the road. So home ice advantage means absolutely nothing. And even going into this too, I think that if there's not so many road wins by these road teams in round one, I still am under the thought process. I've been this way for a number of years that the more the NHL goes on in the more years that pass, yeah, you can win home ice. That's fine. And 9 times out of 10, the home ice records are better than the away ones. But in the playoffs, it doesn't mean anything. It really doesn't mean anything to me anymore.
Well, I think that momentum has a lot to do with it, too. I mean, if you look at what happened, Seattle goes into Colorado, gets everything taken care of there, and then they don't have time to rest. I mean, literally, it's like, boom, you're off to the next one. You're catching a flight to Dallas. And with that, you know, you're thinking, okay, it always ends up, it can go one of two ways for you. Coming out of a series that emotional for Seattle, beating Colorado, sending them home, you're like, yay, you know, and then you crash, you know, it's like, okay, that series is over and then you're done. But I think a lot of times, and you mentioned home ice and momentum, I think that coming out of a series that is as emotional as that was for Seattle, they're just still amped up on that idea of, okay, we got to keep going here and we're on to the next thing and we're going to Dallas. And they're down 1-0. And then all of a sudden, 3 goals in 52 seconds. And you're like, holy ish, what is going on with Seattle? And it's just that kind of that momentum that's applied to it. And you're thinking 4-2 at the end of one. And you figure that's when you hit that wall. You know, you're pushing through. You've gotten through the series. You made that first big step with all of that emotion and all of that energy. You're up 4-2 after one. And then Joe Pavelski so 4. Yeah, I mean, literally, you're looking for Arn, Ole, J.J. Dillon, and the nature boy Ric Flair.
Insert 4. Yeah.
That's what you're staring at. I mean,
what a return. What a return.
Absolutely nuts.
Yeah.
But then I think you pass through that momentum shift, and it's just about maintaining the energy at that point. If you're Seattle, it's like, okay, you get that big push, the game calms down, okay, everything's back to normal. Now you've got 2 teams on even footing. You go into free hockey, and Yannick Gord gets the winner in overtime, and you're 1 up out of the blocks as a team that's never done this before. And not to say that you're a bunch of young guys, but the fact that you have guys who have this kind of experience. We saw it with Vegas when they made their run as a young team as well. Things were structured to where you get this push, and you're seeing that with Seattle in game 1.
Vegas was different, and there's no expansion team that's going to be like.
They were structured differently with the expansion draft.
Yeah, and Seattle is the type of team, they've done this all season long. There's no player that makes over $6 million on the team. There's not a real superstar. Jared McCann had a great season, but he's not a superstar in the NHL. Matty Beniers should be a real star at some point down the road. They're big on defense. Grubauer's been great down the stretch for Seattle. I think they bought into what Dave Hackstall has been doing. And when you do that, you don't need – sure, yeah, it's great to have number 97 on your team. It's great to have, I don't know, a Jack Eichel on Vegas. It's great to have a Jack Hughes in New Jersey, Austin Matthews in Toronto. The list can go on and on and on. But I'm much better, John. I'm not saying Seattle's going to go all the way with this thing. That would be unbelievable.
Unbelievable.
But I'm better with having a group of good players than a team with a few great players and marginal ones after that, because you don't lean on anybody in Seattle. One night it's so-and-so, one night it's so-and-so. And the fact that the Kraken are doing what they're doing is astonishing. And I said this too when I was doing my Sirius XM show, that The Devils, they've moved on, and I think, they're young and they have nothing to lose. They're playing with house money. So too are the Kraken. If the Devils don't make it through the next round, or if they don't go on to win the Cup, same thing with Seattle. This season for both the teams has been a massive jump in the right direction. And for the Devils, now Seattle may not be as good next season. We don't know. But the Devils, they're here to stay. So the point is that if you don't make it through, it's okay. You'll be there next season, and I think a few seasons beyond.
Well, and with Seattle, looking up once again with our friends at Puckpedia, because it's always something that we like to analyze here, they're right up against the number. I mean, they are right up against 82.5. They're at 81.7 and change, and they're right up there against it, and they're going to have some decisions to make. I mean, you mentioned nobody up over 6. Eberle at 5.5. He's there for another year.
Yeah.
Jaden Schwartz is there through 25.6. Yeah. Burakovsky is there through 26.7. Bjorkstrand, who has been insane. He was insane in round number 1. And
a quick thing, they're doing this without Burakovsky. Remember? He's injured. He isn't playing. Anyway, go on.
You got Bjorkstrand at 5.4 through 25.6. Yanni Gord, 5.16, blah, 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 through 4.5. Yeah. Jared McCann at 5 even through 26.7. And Wenberg, who is there at 4.5. Brandon Tanev at 3.5. So everybody, this is a very socialistic approach that you're seeing out of Seattle. Everybody's making the same thing. You're all going to do this as the collective. It's very Borg-like when it comes to Seattle. On defense, Alexiak's at 4.6. Larson's at 4. Vince Dunn is a restricted free after this season at 4. Justin Schultz is at 3. Carson Soucy's at 2 3/4. And then you have the 3 guys that are below $1 million. And then in net, you've got Grubauer, who is at 5.9. So everyone is in that. You mentioned no one's making any more than 6. And I think that's key, that everybody buys into this collective. And you mentioned that they're doing it without Burakovsky. They're also doing it without Dreger, who is he's got buried money as well at 350. So
and that whole thing's interesting, because when they ended last season, he went to play in the World Championship and he got hurt, and so Ron Francis had to go out in the summer to try to find a replacement, and he signed Martin Jones to that 1-year contract. So that was, I think if you have the numbers still up, I think he's at 2. Yeah, 2. So Martin 1 year and a 2. Yeah. And that was a bargain deal. It was a high risk, low risk, high reward type of contract. So it is great. It's good to see, because this is not the way the NHL is played now. You have stars on your team that make a ton of money, and then you have the rest. Seattle has a bunch of guys making the same amount, and then you don't have any others. You just have the same amount of money being paid pretty much for everybody. So I'm happy for them. I really am. Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
The Panthers, got to talk about them. They knocked off the mighty Boston Bruins in 7. Boston up 3-1. Let me ask you, in the history of the NHL and the history of sports in general, where does this comeback rank for you? Start in hockey. Where does it rank for you? There have been some games and series over time that I'm not just saying 3-1 in the Cup final. I'm just saying 3-1 in general. And this one to me is because you have Boston, the historic season, down to the Panthers. Where does this rank for you? Or is it that much of a surprise for you?
I think, it's its own animal to me, because of everything in a record-setting season, unless you want to talk about the Seattle Mariners getting bounced after their historic season where they won, was it 192 games in a 162 game schedule, and then they didn't even make it out of the first round. So for me, that would be my immediate comparison, is Seattle Mariners in their prime with that group that they had getting bounced. That's the kind of historic thing that you're staring at here with that group. And it is, I know folks that work in the media up in Boston. I know folks that live up there, and you want to talk about an entire region that is gripping, and then all you have to do is go down a couple of hours to the southwest, and you have multiple teams kind of sitting there going, ha, 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 ha. And the Devils are the ones that come out of this, it's really, really odd to see who made it to the second round, but I think it's in effect, I think it's good for the National Hockey League, because you can sit there and look at the structure of how to make a team. You mentioned Seattle. very, very socialistic.
Mm-hmm.
Vegas, who, they're one massive injury or two massive injuries away. I mean, right now, technically, they're over the cap by $13 million, but of course, a lot of that is long term. So, I mean, Bill Foley has said from the absolute beginning, I'm spending money, I'm bringing in talent, I've got a show, and I've got a product that's got to be there every single time out in Vegas. So there are different ways of going about it. But the fact of the matter is, when you've got Boston doing what they did, and then just completely and totally just, I mean, you want to sit there and you want to take the air out of the tire. You just want to sit there, and it's like in Jack Reacher, where you sit there and you just take the knife and you just go to the tire and you're done. I mean, it was stunning. But I think it's good for the National Hockey League, because it shows, Boston does things their way, but it doesn't mean that just because they're number one, they've set all these records, that they're going to be the one at the end of the whole discussion.
And the Panthers are, and then we can go on from here, but the Panthers are a type of team that they were playing postseason hockey for about a month and a half. And that first game, when Boston didn't look very good, I thought, okay, Boston hasn't been playing playoff hockey since October. They clinched it back in training camp, probably.
Yeah.
So that would have been a thing. I'll tell you something, though, that Matthew Tkachuk, and I've said this time and time again, he is built for this type of hockey. He's built for a series against Boston. He's built for the series against Toronto. This will be intriguing. I'm not going to go on into any more about the whole Toronto Maple Leafs thing and all that stuff. But I will say this. For those that thought maybe Toronto would have an easier time against the Panthers than they would have against Boston, perhaps they would have. Only time will tell, and we'll never know about Boston. But Florida, they only had 3 less wins than Toronto did at the turn of the calendar year, about midway through January. So keep that in mind as you go forward. Carolina, you're not surprised they advance. I'm not. Vegas, same thing. In Edmonton, you're fine from the first round.
Yeah, and I mean, in as much as I knew that I was going to be, drooling in a corner in that Edmonton LAK series, just because of where my allegiances are.
Yeah.
I think it's a good first step for LAK. You know now what you need to do to kind of fill in the holes. All of these young guys that were working their way up through Ontario, top team, top depth, top prospect pool in all of the AHL. Okay, great. Now you're learning what it's like to be in the National Hockey League. You're learning what it means to be in the playoffs. I think it's a good first step. What do you do to build from there, I think, is the key question for LAK going forward. I think it was a wake-up call for Edmonton. How do they respond in this series? But like I said, you leave the LAK series, now you're going to Vegas. You want to talk about a heavyweight fight in round number 2?
Yeah, that's the series I've been most looking forward to in round 2.
I mean, Vegas and Edmonton, it is going to be must-see TV on a bunch of different fronts.
Yeah, I hope
I'm looking.
7.
I mean, you're looking at Eichel and Stone and Carlson and Riley Smith and Marcia. So all those pieces that were brought in from the beginning in Vegas that have stayed. Then you bring in, a Jack Eichel to be a part of it, and you're paying him 10. You're paying 10. I feel like Ty Dillinger. 10.
Thanks, Buffalo. Buffalo.
You're paying him 10. And this is pretty much, except for, a couple of pieces that are the lower salary cap pieces. This is pretty much that same group that made that mad dash to the final a couple of years ago. Add a piece here, add a piece here. What do you do? And then obviously, you mentioned what's going on in net with bringing in, Jonathan Quick. I mean, it's just so weird to see that deal when that happened.
Yeah.
And you having to go through, you've got five goalies on your roster, man.
The strangest part of that was when he was traded to Columbus, remember, for about half an hour.
Yeah, and I give them full credit. I give Columbus full credit for respecting Columbus Blue Jackets legend Jonathan Quick. But what you're getting from Brossoit right now, I think that's big. And we always talk about what it means to have a hot goalie this time of year. And Brossoit, they stuck with him after the first game loss in the first round series. They've stuck with him. You see what you've got right now. And you have those hot goalies. And that's what you've also got to keep in mind, too. What team has a hot goalie that is working their way through when it comes to these round 2s?
NBA. Let's move on to that. And Dillon Brooks. I've heard way too much of Dillon Brooks over the course of since the postseason began.
Yeah.
And for those that don't know, he, of course, has been informed by the team, Memphis, that he'll not be brought back under any circumstances. So how about that? No, you're not just under any circumstances. Your time with Memphis is done. He's been at LeBron. He's been at everybody. He is just yap, trying to back it up on the court. I've had my thing about LeBron James for a long time.
Right.
I've always said and thought that I think that he does feel at times, more times than others, that he feels he's bigger than the game. I feel that he is orchestrated, and he has coaches being let go, orchestrated coaches being hired, orchestrated who's going to surround him to try to win another championship. He's not going to catch Jordan. It's just not happening. He's 38. It's not happening. Well, maybe this year they'll get one because they're playing well. But the point is that Dillon Brooks, just don't go after LeBron James. Don't go after anybody. But if you're saying, he's old, I expected all this type of nonsense, LeBron James at 58 could probably take you on the court at your age. So, John, look, Dillon Brooks, good player. I lost a lot of respect for the guy. I really did.
Just because you poke a bear doesn't mean you should poke a bear. And just because you continue to poke a bear doesn't mean that you should do that either. After doing it the first time, you'd think that you might want to lose your lesson. But I'm guessing that when it comes to poker, he's the kind of guy that wants to double down after a losing hand. You want to sit there and push everything to the middle of the table. You want to sit there and you look at your buddies who are sitting there at the table and say, hey, can you advance me X amount? Because I've got a really good blind here, and I want to keep, chasing after it. But there are just times when you don't do that. No, you don't do it. And you're a 2 seed. I mean, the Memphis came in as a 2 seed.
Yeah.
2-7, and because of 38 teams in the NBA now being allowed to get into the playoffs.
Is that how many it is at right now?
38.
Okay.
38 NBA teams were allowed in the playoffs.
So the playoffs last for 7 months? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, that is absolutely true. They do a home and away aggregate scoring and all of that stuff. But Grizz comes in as a 2 seed. John Morant, who I knew when he was in the Ohio Valley Conference, I knew he was going to be a special player when he would take on Power 5 teams pretty much by himself at Morehead State and just do some absolute damage. And you knew he was a different cat. You're a 2 seed coming into this series against the Lakers. Dillon decides he wants to continue to open his mouth. If that's your MO, fine. Yeah. Just, accept the consequences after the fact. I mean, I would hope that after losing in 6, that you sit there after that 6th game loss, for every piece of the Memphis media that wanted to discuss something with you, or everybody nationally that wanted to discuss something with you, I would have hoped, and I don't know the answer to this, I would hope that you would stand there and answer every question. You said all of these things, you tried to back it up, it didn't happen, you need to answer for it each and every microphone that's in your face. After that 6-game series is over, you need to explain yourself, and you need to explain where you go from here, because obviously the team doesn't want anything to do with you either. Lakers come in as a 7, and I'll give a shout-out to everybody in Sacramento too, because you had a fantastic season. You come in as a 3 seed, but you know that the Warriors they're not a typical 6 seed. No. They, like the Spurs we would see in the past where Pop would rest folks. You're not quite a 1, you might be a 2. You're sitting there during the season. You figure out what you need to do to just get into the playoffs. Then you do your damage there. That's what I think you're seeing from the Warriors as a 6. So you've got a 6 and a 7 in that semifinal, and you're letting Denver and Phoenix batter each other around. Denver right now, they've taken care of business in the first 2. Great. But you've got a 6 and a 7 right now, and I don't think either team is a typical 6 or a 7 seed. And the winner of that conference semi, do you take on Jokic in Denver? Does Phoenix have a comeback in them in the Western Conference side? I think it'll be interesting, considering that the Heat beat Milwaukee in round 1 as an 8. Yeah. They made their way in through that 38.
Well, that was because of Jimmy Butler. I mean,
Jimmy Butler went insane, phenomenal. And taking on the Knicks, they're tied at a game apiece as we're talking, and the Sixers and the Celtics, it's a 2-3, and that's going to go for a while. So, just because a team has a number attached in parentheses to the outside of their name when you're staring at a scoreboard page, that doesn't necessarily apply to who they are in all actuality when it comes to what we're talking about.
The Dillon Brooks thing too, when he didn't speak, he got fined $25,000. And I forgot about this, that he was fined $35,000 earlier on in March when he shoved a camera person after chasing a ball. Classic. And then I forgot about this, that he was suspended in February when he hit Donovan Mitchell of the Cavs in the groin, to which he
Oh,
did
I
the same
remember
thing with, remember that one?
Yeah.
And that cost him $78,621. So you do the math, you add them up, 35, that's 105, 106. And then the 25, you're almost $130,000 in the last few months. Okay, quick thing before we leave. Anybody going to take a chance on him?
Oh,
Any
absolutely.
team? Okay, then who?
Well, somebody that needs that position filled. I think that, the 140 grand, Memphis is like, fine.
Yeah, whatever.
It's not our money. It's our money, and you don't get it. So it just goes in it. You're getting fined. So it shouldn't bother me if I'm a front office. There will always be somebody who needs a player like that. So he will not be unemployed long for a double negative, which will drive my mother crazy. But he will find an employer. Trust me, it might be some weird worded deal when it comes to, performance incentives or something like that. Or someone could just sit there and say, hey, we need to get to the front of the queue. We need to grab him before one of our opponents does, knowing what he can bring to the table. And I think that's probably more more impactful scenarios. Somebody's going to jump to the head of the line, overpay for him, and then you get what you're going to pay for.
Kind of reminds me a bit of a Ron Artest, a little bit of a Ron Artest, right? Yeah. Got talent. Brooks has talent. Artest had talent. Yeah, exactly.
And
Aaron Rodgers with the Jets. Boy, he's trying to get everybody, right? So Green Bay, Randall Cobb used to be there, but they've signed him to a 1-year contract, the fourth ex-Packer to sign. Alan Lazard's there, Tim Boyle, Billy Turner is there as well. Offensive coordinator Nathaniel Hackett is part of the reunion. You look at the receiving corps. So other names on the list of Rodgers. This is why I want to talk to you about this. Mercedes Lewis was on the list. Odell Beckham Jr. They were on Rodgers' list as well. And that's what he's trying to do. The New York Jets last season, they weren't great. They weren't completely terrible, but they weren't great. Aaron Rodgers coming in, and boy, they paid a lot to get the guy. Is he and what he's doing, is he going to turn that team around? Because John, okay, that's the answer. Aaron Rodgers does not have a lot of time left in the National Football League. I mean, as much as he wants to, he's been contemplating, I think, quitting the last 2 seasons. Maybe that's because of the discord he had and felt with Green Bay.
Yeah.
But this guy doesn't have a lot of time left. So is he kind of rallying the troops to say, this is maybe my one last shot here?
Oh, I think so.
Looks like he is.
I think that this is when, and we've seen this with other veteran quarterbacks that, like Joe Montana to Kansas City.
Yeah.
But the free agent market then is not the same as it is now, where you're in a previous iteration of being a quarterback on the move, you're sitting there and you're going, okay, this is what I have to work with. Now with free agency being what it is, you look at what you're seeing from the New York Jets, and it's like, okay, I don't like the resources that are here. So what I want to do is I want to dial up all my buddies, and I want to sit there and go, okay, I want this, I want this, I want this, I want this, I want this. And not a surprise that you're going to sit there and, first off, get a haircut and try to look a little more clean shaven.
But that's his thing. I think he makes the shoveled look pretty shoveled.
Yeah, he is very shoveled. Well, it is now. I mean, that's like, what was the other one? I think that you can be shoveled. I think that there are other words, and it'll probably pop into my head on our next show as to what you can and can't be. But you look at the depth chart right now at quarterback: Aaron Rodgers, Zach Wilson, Tim Boyle, Chris Streveler. Our CFL fans know all about what Strev can do in a proper offense. I think that he is probably the most underrated of second, third, and fourth. But this is Aaron Rodgers' bunch. This is his bunch. You've got Garrett Wilson and Corey Davis, who are good holdovers from what was able to happen last year when Zach Wilson was not at quarterback. And you end up with Wilson, Corey Davis, Alan Lazard, Denzel Mims, Malik Taylor. Mecole Hardman brought over from Kansas City for a specific role. So, we'll see what happens there. Brees Hall, who did fantastic work at running back before he was injured. Oh, the word I was trying to think of was disgruntled. Has anyone ever been gruntled before? So I think if you were
Right.
both gruntled and
Yeah.
Chevel,
Okay.
I think that it would work.
Okay.
But,
Got
I
it.
mean, you look at this offense, Tyler Conklin, who was an established tight end, CJ Uzoma. So there's some stuff to work with here. But when you are investing as much as you are in Aaron Rodgers, if you are the New York Jets, then, yeah, you're going to sit there and go, okay, what do you need to succeed? Instead of sitting there saying, well, Zach Wilson's your backup.
Yeah.
And that's not how this is going to work. If
I
I'm
get it.
coming,
I
if
get
I'm
it.
coming to New York, I want to bring in my friends. I want to bring in
Yeah.
my buddies. I want to make this as comfortable a transition for me as possible.
And the Jets are not going to say no.
No,
It's basically
absolutely not.
whatever you want, Aaron. You want the key to the city now? We'll give you the key to the city.
Mm-hmm. He'll be, if they want to give him all of the master locks to the Meadowlands so he
Right.
can come in whenever he wants,
Yeah.
that's what they're going to do.
Yeah.
But what will be interesting is if this experiment does not work and it ends up being something where it's like Johnny Unitas with the Chargers or Joe Namath with the Rams or something like that, where this comes off the rails quick. How will the Jets front office respond to the media and to the questions? How will Aaron Rodgers respond to the questions if this does not go the way that you hope if you're a Jets fan or Woody Johnson or whomever, if you're associated with the Jets team? If you want this to go swimmingly as possible, I get the level of investment. Trust me, because you got to turn things around. You got to turn things around quick. So you're just going to give them the keys. I need all these resources. If it doesn't go well and it blows up in your face, how do you respond? That's going to be interesting for me.
6-10 last season. They ended the season on a 6-game skid. So again, that was last year. New team, new quarterback. We'll see. Last one, and you and I talked about this, I think 2 weeks ago when we were on the show about Messi. So it looks like his time at PSG is going to be done. So there's no doubts. It's understood that his dad communicated that decision to PSG about a month ago. And due to the project, and that I think, according to what I've been reading, was the final breaking point. And they just suspended him too.
Yeah,
for going to Saudi Arabia.
Yeah,
2-week ban. So what do you make of this? I mean, in the second season, it didn't go well, and obviously the marriage lasted not very long.
Well, it's what the Saudis, and this is probably a show in and of itself, and we do talk about it on Soccer Down Here a lot in the morning.
Right.
He is right now, according to our friends at the Telegraph, in talks for a £320 million a year move to Saudi Arabia, because he is one of their ambassadors for the Vision 2030 project, where they want to try to have as many things there to say that we are this bastion of sports and everybody can come here and you're all welcome. Sure you are. And be a part of something in Saudi Arabia by 2030. That right now, the Saudi government is preparing the most lucrative salary deal in the history of football to bring Messi there. Talks with Messi's reps, led by his dad, who's his agent. And this is going to, free agent at the end of June when his contract at PSG expires. Discussions that the whole package could be worth $400 million a year annually.
Wow.
And that would blow out Cristiano Ronaldo, old CR38's.
Come on, John. How much is too much? That's unbelievable.
Yeah, it's 165 million pounds for CR38, and he's supposed to play there for another 2 years. Messi's coming in, but like I said, when you have all of these resources available to you, as the Saudis do, the Saudis are looking at the Qataris, and they are looking at Abu Dhabi, and they are looking at all of these folks. That's why they invested in Newcastle, because they want to have all of this sports washing attached to what they're doing, to sit there and go, hey, look at us. We're a great place for sport. No, the human rights stuff, no, we don't know. The human rights stuff, what human rights stuff? It's like the scene in Beverly Hills Cop with Gilbert Gottfried and the parking ticket, where it's just like, you see this here? What's this in my hand? And you're more focusing on what's in this hand. And this hand,
great movie franchise.
So it's like Gilbert Gottfried in the parking ticket. That scene in Beverly Hills Cop. That's your Google search for today, kids. But it's a big money move for both Messi and for Saudi Arabia to try to sit there and put themselves on the world stage by 2030. And it's probably going to end up happening because he already was an ambassador. But now this is trying to figure out, okay, how much, what team do we assign him to? So he goes head-to-head against CR38 in the Saudi Pro League.
It's a lot of money to play a sport. I mean, come on, I get it. No, I don't really, but you and I would not say no.
No, well,
I'd
I
give a lot
would.
of it up.
Honestly, I would if it was Saudi Arabia because of all of the
Right.
human rights stuff that's attached.
Fair enough. Yeah. All right, out of time. North South. For John, I'm Ryan. We'll be back next week.